So you want to be Mystique? Congratulations! You've just signed up for the psychological equivalent of getting catfished by your own reflection. Every day, for 100 years. Yeah, she's hot. Yeah, she can turn into anyone. But behind that flawless blue skin is a one-woman identity crisis so intense it makes Batman look emotionally well-adjusted. Mystique's power sounds cool until you realize she can copy anyone's body. But not a single person's love, trust, or Wi-Fi password. She spent her entire life pretending to be people she's not, which is kinda relatable if you've ever smiled through a Zoom meeting while dying inside. But unlike you, she doesn't clock out. There's no real Mystique behind the scenes. Just layer after layer of lies, pain, and regrettable hookups with dudes named Sabretooth. This isn't superpowered wish fulfillment. It's shape-shifting schizophrenia with a body count. And if you still think you'd want to be Mystique, give me 5 minutes. I promise you'll be begging to stay boring and beige. So, who is Mystique? That's a complicated question. Mostly because even she doesn't know anymore. Her real name is Raven Darkholme, which already sounds like someone who writes sad poetry in the bathtub. But she ditched that name faster than a villain monologue in an XMen movie. Now she's just Mystique, like Cher, but with more body bags. She first popped up in Marvel Comics in 1978, and she's been confusing the hell out of readers ever since. She's a shapeshifter, an assassin, a spy, a double agent, a triple agent, a mom, a war criminal, a sometimes hero, and an always walking red flag. Imagine if your resume said, former government agent, revolutionary terrorist, can become your therapist mid-session. Also, I may be your mom. Who knows? That's Mystique in a nutshell. She's everything, and also nothing at all. You know how most heroes have some kind of anchor? A moral compass? A tragic origin story? A purpose? Mystique's purpose is chaos, shape-shifting, and emotionally ghosting everyone she's ever met. She's been alive for over a century, and no one, not her enemies, not her lovers, not even she herself, knows who the real Mystique is. Because behind every disguise, there's just another disguise. It's like emotional inception, except instead of dreams inside dreams, it's trauma inside identity theft. On paper, Mystique's power seems like a cheat code for life. You want to be rich? Boom. Turn into a tech CEO. Need to escape the cops? Morph into a squirrel. Feel like ruining someone's marriage just for fun? You know she's done that. But here's the catch. When your entire personality is cosplay on steroids, you slowly lose track of who the hell you actually are. Mystique doesn't just shapeshift her body, she shapeshifts her entire identity. Voice, mannerisms, emotions. She's like a living method actor with no off switch. Daniel Day-Lewis, but homicidal. And over time, that kind of performance doesn't just fool others, it fools you. If you wake up every day pretending to be someone else, eventually, pretending becomes reality. And your original self? Gone, deleted, like a bad haircut from your Facebook timeline. Mystique isn't wearing a mask. She is the mask. All the time, forever. And you can't build real relationships when nobody knows who you are. Worse, when you don't even know who you are. It's not just lonely. It's identity erasure with a shape-shifting twist. There's no real Mystique behind the curtain. There's just 100 versions of who people need her to be. Spy, seductress, soldier, mom, monster. She's everyone, and yet completely alone. It's the world's most depressing magic trick. Now you see her, now you don't. Now she's sad and emotionally unavailable in the form of a barista. If Mystique's power comes from an identity crisis, her family life is a full-blown psychological crime scene. Let's start with her son, Nightcrawler. Yes, the teleporting blue demon-looking guy with the tail. Cute, right? Until you realize Mystique abandoned him as a baby by throwing him off a freaking waterfall. Because she was scared of being judged for having a blue child, while being blue herself. That's like if Cookie Monster gave up his kid because he liked cookies too much. And guess what? That rejection stuck. Nightcrawler grew up super Catholic because nothing says I have trauma like joining the church after your mom tried to flush you out of existence. They reunited years later, and it went about as well as you'd expect. No warm hugs, no I missed you, Mom. Just resentment, guilt, and probably a really awkward dinner. Then there's Rogue. Yes, that Rogue. White streak, power-stealing hands, emotionally damaged Southern Belle. Mystique adopted her as a child, raised her to be a weapon, and then acted surprised when Rogue developed severe trust issues and chose the X-Men over her. One time, Rogue even punched Mystique through a wall. Which, honestly, is the most relatable thing anyone's ever done to their toxic parent. Now, let's talk partners. Mystique's had more unstable relationships than a reality show contestant on Tequila. She's been with Azazel, literal demon and Nightcrawler's dad. That was a hell of a decision. And there's Destiny, her mutant girlfriend, and probably the only person who's ever loved her for who she is. Which is beautiful. Until Mystique inevitably betrays her too, because emotional sabotage is her love language. Even her so-called alliances, Magneto, Charles, the Brotherhood, they all end in betrayal, manipulation, or a passive-aggressive text message followed by genocide. This woman could walk into a family therapist's office and set off the smoke alarm. At this point, her family tree isn't even a tree. It's a burning pile of blue kindling. So yeah, next time you envy Mystique's powers, just remember, she can shapeshift into literally anyone, except someone her kids don't hate. You'd think a master shapeshifter would be the ultimate manipulator, always one step ahead, the puppet master behind the curtain. The mysterious badass playing 4D chess with everyone's lives. Yeah. No. Mystique's not some mastermind. She's more like that one coworker who thinks they're secretly running the company, but actually just keeps getting passed around departments until someone fires them and they sneak back in wearing a fake mustache. Let's talk affiliations. She's worked with the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, Magneto, the X-Men, the government, S.H.I.E.L.D., the CIA, the Hellfire Club, and probably Uber Eats at some point. She switches sides more often than a double-jointed Cirque du Soleil performer. And every time she thinks she's got the upper hand, someone else is already 10 steps ahead, rolling their eyes and setting up her betrayal arc. It's not that Mystique isn't smart. She's cunning, skilled, ruthless, but she has one fatal weakness. She actually thinks she's in control. Which is hilarious, because the people she aligns with treat her like the world's most dangerous boomerang. They throw her out when it's convenient, and the moment they need some morally gray chaos, whoop! Back she comes in full blue rage mode. Even when she leads, like taking over the Brotherhood, she ends up manipulated or overthrown. Her victories are temporary, her alliances are fake, and her plans are just slightly more stable versions of a toddler's Lego tower. Mystique wants to be the queen, but in the eyes of everyone else, she's just a shape-shifting utility belt. Plug her in when you need her to lie, spy, seduce, or stab someone in the back. And the second she asks for loyalty, love, or, God forbid, respect, they toss her back into the blue bin labeled Do Not Trust. Mystique isn't the game master. She's the game piece, and everyone's been playing her since the first move. Mystique doesn't have full-blown immortality, but her mutant metabolism dramatically slows her aging, which means she's been around for over a century and still looks like she just walked out of a body paint convention. Sounds awesome, right? Wrong. It's not eternal youth. It's eternal disappointment. With abs. She's lived through wars, genocides, betrayals, mutant oppression, and more political side-switching than a spineless senator. And every time she outlives another lover, child, friend, or revolution, she just gets a little colder, a little less human, and a lot more dead inside. She's watched people she cared about grow old, die, or just straight up turn on her. And the worst part, even when they were alive, they never really knew her to begin with. Just whatever mask she was wearing that decade. Over time, Mystique stopped trying to form real bonds. Because what's the point of connection when it's only temporary? What's the point of love when it ages and dies? And you're stuck watching unchanged for another 50 years? She becomes emotionally numb. And honestly, who could blame her? When your life spans multiple generations but your relationships can't even survive a team-up arc, you eventually stop trying. She doesn't get to enjoy the wisdom of old age, the peace of retirement, or the rewards of growth. She just gets to keep going. Through pain, through betrayal, through fashion trends that were never kind to full body scales, Mystique's life is like one of those cursed immortality stories. Except she's not immortal. So there's no upside. Just decades of trauma, Botox-free beauty, and the creeping realization that being alive longer doesn't mean living better. So yeah, eternal youth kinda loses its charm when you're emotionally withered and everyone who ever loved you is either dead or hates you. If you thought Mystique's powers were cursed and her family life was a mess, strap in, because her love life is basically a post-apocalyptic wasteland wrapped in leather and abandonment issues. Let's start with Azazel, Nightcrawler's dad. Yes, the literal red-skinned demon guy with a goatee and teleportation powers. Because when you're an emotionally unstable shapeshifter with control issues, apparently the perfect match is Satan with a six-pack. That relationship gave us Nightcrawler, and a breakup so toxic it probably scorched a hole in the Marvel timeline. But wait, it gets spicier. Mystique has also been with Destiny, aka Irene Adler. And honestly, Irene is probably the closest thing Mystique has ever had to a healthy relationship. They were soulmates, partners, strategists. They even raced Rogue together, which is beautiful. Until Destiny died and Mystique spiraled into vengeance, murder, and using Destiny's memory as emotional blackmail for the next 40 years. Because when your girlfriend can see the future and still chooses to be with you, you'd think that'd be comforting. Instead, Mystique turned it into a lifelong coping mechanism with a kill count. Other lovers? Oh, she's had them. And left them emotionally scarred or physically dead. Sabretooth, Forge, various poor fools who fell for the hot woman in the bar, only to find out she was a shape-shifting assassin with a soft spot for betrayal and trauma. Dating Mystique is like hugging a chainsaw. Sure, it feels good for a second, but you're gonna lose something vital. The problem isn't that she's unlovable, it's that she's unreachable. No one ever truly dates her. They date whatever version she's pretending to be. And when the mask slips, the relationship dies faster than a side character in the first 10 minutes of an XMen movie. Love requires vulnerability. Mystique requires control. And those two things go together like Rogue and hand-holding. So yeah, she might be hot, seductive, mysterious, all that femme fatale stuff. But fall in love with Mystique, and you won't just get your heart broken. You'll get your entire personality rewritten, emotionally deleted, and possibly left naked in a government bunker. 10 out of 10 would not recommend. Here's the real kicker. The plot twist that makes Mystique one of the most tragic and twisted characters in all of Marvel. Her entire existence is about control. She controls how she looks, how she sounds, how people perceive her. She plays every side, manipulates every angle, always tries to stay one step ahead. But in the end, she's never really in control of anything. Not her family, not her friends, not even her own damn identity. The mutant whose power is transformation is permanently stuck. She wants to belong, but no one accepts her. She wants to be loved, but no one can trust her. She wants freedom, but spends her life serving agendas she doesn't even believe in. It's like watching someone build an escape room and then lock themselves inside. She's been fighting for mutant rights for decades, but she's never really part of the movement. Too manipulative for the heroes, too emotional for the villains, always caught in the middle. Always disposable, and the worst part, she could literally be anyone. But no one, not a single person, truly knows who she is. Mystique is the ultimate metaphor for self-erasure. She sacrificed authenticity for survival. And now she's just a hollow shell in fabulous boots. She's feared, she's famous, she's deadly. But deep down, she's just a lonely shape-shifting ghost, desperately trying to remember what it feels like to be real. So, let's put this nightmare in blue into perspective. Mystique doesn't just suffer, she loops her suffering. Over and over again, in different identities, different eras, different disguises, but with the same damn pain. She's not healing, she's just hiding. And every time you think, well, maybe this time she'll find peace, she shapeshifts into someone new and detonates another relationship with the emotional precision of a hand grenade in a therapy session. Mystique isn't just a tragic figure. She's the architect of her own collapse. She had the power to reinvent herself endlessly. But instead of becoming someone better, she became no one at all. And that is the final gut punch. Because in a universe filled with flying men in capes, time-traveling mutants, and reality-warping witches, Mystique has the most human tragedy of them all. She spent her whole life running from herself, and still couldn't escape. So, would you want to be Mystique? If you answered yes, congrats! You're either dangerously optimistic or just really into body horror and unresolved trauma. But for the rest of us, we'll take boring, predictable, non-shape-shifting life. With a face that doesn't change and a family that doesn't actively try to murder us. If you made it this far, you clearly enjoyed emotionally dismantling iconic characters. So do us a favor, smash that like button before Mystique turns into your mom and asks why you haven't subscribed yet. Drop a comment below. Which other cool superhero actually has a secretly awful life? And if you want more brutally honest takes like this one, you know what to do. We'll see you in the next existential breakdown.